Hi, my name is Sophia, and I am the writer of Brewed Pages, and this is my first ever blogger podcast. So, in case you don't know, my blog is all about books, book reviews, recommendations, discussion, opinion, and all of that. So, today I wanted to talk about Booktok and whether its influence is good or bad for the reading community. So, to start off, what even is Booktok? Booktok is basically this really big community on TikTok where people share videos on book recommendations and reviews and theories. And it really started getting popular in the early 2020s during the COVID pandemic. And its influence is pretty big. I mean, you could walk into a Barnes and Nobles and there will be a table labeled Booktok with books that are really popular on TikTok. I think Booktok started off really well, at least in the beginning. It really was just about sharing good books with each other, and it was a place to connect with people through our favorite books. And being so honest, the first time I really got into a book, it was a book I found on Booktok. So I'm not gonna be all negative on Booktok because I it has had an influence on me, but I think it has changed over the years, and I honestly preferred the earlier version. So let's just start off with like all the positive that Booktok brings. One of the major things that Booktok has brought is like this huge sense of community. It kind of feels like it's this huge book club that everyone's in. It like we're all reading the same book and we're all sharing our opinions with each other. And even if like I have more negative opinions on Booktok right now, I still find myself like going on it and looking up videos on like whatever book I just finished reading because it has like this quick response. Like you look it up and you see videos of like people who either have like the same opinion as you and like all their theories. Like Hunger Games Sunrise Over the Reaping came out pretty recently, and when I finished that, I immediately went on Booktok and spent so much time just watching TikToks of like people's reactions and theories. And I just think like overall Booktok just made it so easy to feel like some sort of engagement with people over books. Another good thing about Booktok is just how much it encourages people to read books. And I also think it brought back like people's love for books. Like for me personally, I read a lot as a kid. Like I read graphic novels like Smile, Sisters, and Dork Diaries. Don't get me started on Dork Diaries. But as I got older, I like slowly stopped reading. And it wasn't until like my freshman year of high school when I read Looking for Alaska for my English class that I actively started seeking out books to read for just enjoyment. And I did use TikTok to find some recommendations. And talking about recommendations, that's another thing that Booktok does really well. Just because of like how TikTok's algorithm works, it like picks up on like what videos you're watching. So if you're like on Booktok and it is notices that you're watching TikToks about dark academia books, it'll recommend you books from that genre. So I think it really does give you like a good set of like recommendations just based on like what videos you're liking and like engaging with. So that's like something that I think that Booktok does really well. And me personally, I have found a lot of books on Booktok that I really enjoyed. Um, but honestly, I personally think that's where all the good things end, and I do think there's more bad things that come with Booktok. One of the things I don't like about Booktok is just how much it supports like over consumerism. I feel like you can go on Booktok and you'll find like people showing videos of their bookshelves and it's just covered, filled to the brim with books, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I haven't read all of these books." And it feels more like a show off kind of, if that makes sense. Like it feels Like there's more people buying books than actually reading them, if that makes sense. I guess what I'm like trying to say is that it feels like people are just buying so many books at the same time just to like say like, oh yeah, like look at me, I'm a reader, look at all the books I have, and they're not even actively reading them. If I'm making any sense. It's just, yeah, like it just rubs me the wrong way that they're spending all of this money on books, on like hardcover books, special edition books, all of like the specialness of the books, and they're not even reading it. And it just doesn't feel right. Like, come on, you're wasting all this money for something you're not even gonna do. And I guess that brings me to my other point on how like book talk kind of like in a way really ignores like public libraries and all that. I feel like in all these years that I've been kind of on book talk, I've never seen like a video of people supporting their local libraries and going to the library, getting a library card and checking out a book. And is and I mean like there's so many positive things that come with the library for the reading community, and instead of promoting public libraries, which like you can check out books for free, they're promoting going to Barnes and Nobles and doing a big spending haul, and that just doesn't make sense to me. Especially now that like books are so expensive nowadays that it just makes more sense to like check them out from a public library. Like, come on, like books should not be over $10, and but they are. And I just don't understand why people are not going to their libraries or like promoting their libraries. It's just like when I see someone on TikTok showing off how many books they bought, it feels like they're mostly just showing off or trying to show off how much money they have instead of like instead of like actively engaging with like the community of the books they bought. It just seems like they're just buying and sticking it onto their shelf for decoration. And I just think like books just bring so much enjoyment and engagement to people's life that why are you just gonna buy a book and leave it sitting on your shelf collecting dust? My next reason for not liking book talk is honestly a little petty, I guess. So I feel like when you think of book talk, you think of like a romance novel, and and when you think of the cover, you think of like those illustrations of like people, and it's like this very specific art style, and I absolutely hate those covers. But because it got so popular on book talk, publishing companies are now like running wild with that kind of style, and I just hate it so much. And that kind of brings me to like my next point of how, well, not of a spice talk, I guess, of like people who, well, not, I guess not people, but it's like this genre of books where it's just sexual stuff in them, other than like, yeah, it's purely just sexual stuff in the book. But because of like that romancy cover, it makes like, how do I explain it? Like companies are now putting like these like illustrations on these like spicy books, but the thing is that these illustrations make it seem like they're for kids cuz it literally looks like a cartoonish kind of. And because of that, at like Targets and Walmarts, they're getting miscategorized to like young adults. So it's like it just it just makes it easier for little kids to pick it up and read something that they're probably too young to read. I also think that book talk in a way has kind of gotten rid of like being a critic, if that makes sense. Like if you hate on a book or give like a bad review on a book that's popular on Booktok, I feel like people just like attack it saying like, "Oh, why don't you just let us enjoy what we like?" Well, and I guess it does like I get it. Like everyone can enjoy whatever book they're reading, but I guess like some books are just not that good. Like they don't have good writing, and I think like it's important to be able to give criticism, especially with, I guess it's just like criticism is not always bad. It could be good, but with book talk, like that criticism just doesn't exist. You like what you like, and people who hate on it are just bad people. Well, that's what it feels like to be on book talk and express like your opinion on a book that you don't like. Also, with like how big book talk has gotten, it's it's having like this problem of like supply and demand. So what what I mean is like publishing communities, well, not publishing communities, but like publishing companies are seeing like such big demand for these books that they're just like releasing so many books at the same time. But like some of these books are just not good, and it feels more like how do I explain this? Like it feels like it's just a book you chew up and forget about. Like I feel like there's hardly ever any books now being published where you read it and it's like on your mind for a whole month or like more, if I'm making any sense. And going back to what I was saying before on how it kind of feels like people are just buying books just to be able to say like, "Hey, I'm a reader." I feel like on TikTok there's like so many sides of like genres of books you read, if that makes sense. Like you could get on like the romance side of TikTok or like the dark academia side of TikTok. But I feel like they the sides really judge each other harshly, I guess, if that makes sense. It's like I feel like, oh my god, like how do I explain it? It's like you'll see a video and it's like of this like girl, and she's like, and like the oh my god, I keep saying like I'm so sorry, but like the video it'll be a video and the caption would be like, "Oh, you left your Colleen Hoover book at my house." And then it's like her showing off some books, and it's like The Bell Jar, Little Women, The Secret History. So and there's like nothing wrong with like liking those books. Like I've enjoyed those books too, but like watching that video, it gives like this sense of like, oh, like it's giving like I think I'm better than you because I don't read these like silly little romance books. And I just think like we shouldn't judge each other based on like the genres we read, if that makes sense. I feel like if we're gonna hate on a book, let's hate on it because it's bad writing or a bad plot line. I mean, like me personally, I don't enjoy romance novels that much just because I feel like it's very repetitive, I guess. If like I'll read it if I read a romance novel, I feel like I'll be able to predict everything that happens, but I'm not over here like giving the stink eye to people who read romance novels. And this kind of like brings me to like my next reason on why I don't like book talk. But um if you go on book talk, you're going to hear the term called trope, which it's like this like simple way to like describe a book. So like for romance novels, they'll be like the enemies to lovers trope or fake dating trope and all of that. And I just think like I just don't like it. I don't like tropes. Not I don't like tropes in the sense that the way it describes like these books, I feel like it simplifies way too much on like the themes of the book that it kind of takes away like the overall message the book is trying to get through, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like especially like with novels with like romance in them, if for like I keep saying like, I'm so sorry guys, it's like part of my vocabulary, sorry. But like if there's a book with romance in it, there's most likely someone on TikTok describing it with like a simple three word statement, and I just think it kind of takes away from the book. My next reason for not liking Booktok is, again, also kind of petty, but I just do not like on like how heavily there's like how much videos there are on like spice books. And me personally, I don't like reading those kinds of books. It just, I don't know, it feels wrong to read them, so I just don't read them. But I I feel like there's so many people on TikTok that won't read a book if it doesn't have any spice. And I don't know, it just rubs me off the wrong way, because books are just a very like powerful tool. Like, I mean, at least for me, I want to read books that I wouldn't have been able to read like if it was like the 1900s, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but I don't know. It feels wrong for me to read like spice books, because like for so long women weren't allowed to like have an education and all that. But and it's kind of like books are like these huge things that could hold so much power and so much meaning, and to reducing it to just like the amount of spice it has, it feels wrong and I don't like it. But I'm not like trying to judge people who do like those books. Like, I truly, truly believe that you should read whatever you want to read, whatever you enjoy reading, and you shouldn't care about what other people think about the books you read. It's just like, me personally, that's just not my type of books. And staying like on the topic of like spice books, I feel like a lot of the ones on TikTok that are really popular, in a way, kind of normalizes abuse, and they just label it as a dark romance. And it's like, girl, no, like if that happened in real life, like you gotta call the police, if if that makes sense. And I don't know, like, I guess I'm trying to think of like a really popular Booktok book. Not The Last of Us. Oh my god, it's the Colleen Hoover one. What is it called? Oh, It Ends With Us. I feel like that, I know on TikTok that's gotten a lot of criticism over like oh my god, I'm like totally blanking out, but it's gotten a lot of like criticism on TikTok for how it writes about domestic violence, and I personally kind of have to agree. When I read it, it kind of felt, especially the ending, it felt like it was more like promoting or like romanticizing domestic abuse, which should obviously not happen. And going back to what I was saying on how like these publishing companies are just like releasing books right away, it kind of feels like it's more like copy and paste, if that makes sense. Like, they're just releasing the same type of plot and just changing like the characters' names and like the way they look and all that. And it just feels very lazy, and I feel like the quality of new books have been slowly decreasing. And I'm not saying that like these lighthearted romance books are bad. Like, I could enjoy a lighthearted book, but I think it kind of makes people a little narrow-minded if all they're reading are these same types of books, and it kind of, in a way, doesn't let people to explore outside of their genres that they normally read. I feel like, I don't know if if this makes sense, but people, I feel like on Book Talk just stick with like their genre and don't try to explore and see what others genres might have for them. I feel like I've been saying a lot about like the romance side of Book Talk, but I feel like the exact same could be said with like the more like academia side of Book Talk. I feel like, um, I don't know, it feels like sometimes going on there, it just feels like they're trying to be so superior to everyone else because they read like these hard and challenging books, and it just feels like they're looking down upon people who don't read those books. Like like those people on TikTok that like show off how many annotations they have on a book, and it's just covered in like sticky tabs, and I'm like, and it just this, like, come on, you can't have something to say for every single sentence in the book. And it just feels like they're trying to push like this picture um that they're really smart and that they're not a snob and that they're just like better than everyone. But it's like it feels kind of forced, if that makes sense. And going back to what I was saying about like these copy and paste books. I'm so sorry. I'm like jumping all over the place. I feel like um I nowadays people want to read easy books. And I think that I mean, I understand, like, there's some books that I read just to feel like joy and read it quick and fast and super easy. But I also feel like people should be reading more of the harder books, the more important and the impactful books. Like, I'm trying to think of like books that have had a really big impact on our society. So I guess like 1984, like that's a pretty hard book. Or like Shakespeare plays, and like all like those classics that are still like very impactful in today's world. I feel like people are not really picking them up because the language is hard to understand, and you really need to have like critical thinking skills to be able to pick up on like the rhetorical analysis of it all. And I feel like I sound like such a snob, but I'm really not trying to be. It's just I feel like these books have had such a big impact on the world that it feels kind of wrong that people are not really reading them anymore. And if they do, they like I've seen people on TikTok pick up like a classic and complain on like how it's written. And like, come on, if you read a classic, you know the language is going to be a little bit harder because it was written like forever ago. But yeah, I feel like I've been spending so much time just like talking about like all the things I don't like about Book Talk. And I do admit like Book Talk has brought a lot of good things. Like I said, like it encourages more people to read, which is honestly what we need now, especially given like the fact that like children's like literacy rates are going down. And I think it's really good that like TikTok has been bringing so many new people to pick up reading as a hobby. And yeah, like uh and I guess is what I'm trying to say is like even though Book Talk has like its good and bad sides, I do like on how much it's promoting reading in itself, even if it's like the simple copy and paste book that everyone else is reading, even if it's like that book with a really bad writing that everyone seems to like. But I feel like as long as people are reading anything, just let them enjoy what they enjoy. And I think like people who do start off reading on Book Talk can grow and pick up like these more impactful good writing books. I mean, I feel like that was true for me when I first really started getting into reading, I mostly just read books I found on Booktok, but I slowly started branching out to like different types of genres, and I stopped kind of relying on like recommendations from Booktok and kind of explored on my own. And I think like um yeah, people reading more because of Booktok is kind of like a stage to for them to branch out into, I guess, I don't know if this is making any sense at all, but Booktok I think is like a really good tool for people to get into reading or get back into reading, if that makes sense. So I guess overall what I'm trying to say is like Booktok brings so much positive into reading, if that makes sense. If like it encourages and promotes reading to people, and I think that's a very huge positive thing. um Even if they are reading bad books, people are reading, and that's a good thing. But I also think there's a lot of negatives to it. Um but I think with everything there's always like the cons and pros. Me personally, I kind of left behind Booktok, but I'm not denying in any way that Booktok has been like a huge part of like my reading journey, if that makes sense. And I guess to like end this episode, or yeah, I kind of want to like talk about some books that I've really enjoyed that I found out about through Booktok. So I guess yeah, like the first book that ever made me cry, I it was recommended to me through TikTok. If We Were Villains, like that was the first book to ever make me sob, like actual full on sobbing. Another one, The Secret History. That one was really good that I found out about on TikTok. A Good Girl Guides to Murder. That one was really good. Um, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. That one was also really good that I found on Booktok. And what else? Um, the Bell Jar. I know a Bell Jar has been popular for a while, but I did first hear it on Booktok, and I picked it up because I kept seeing a lot of good things about it on TikTok. Like those are some of like my all-time favorite books that I found through Booktok. So like yeah, I'm like what I'm trying to say is like even me who's like super critical, or sorry, who criticizes book talk a lot, I still had a positive impact from book talk. So it's not all bad. I think it's just more about finding what you like. Like for me, I kind of just moved on from like book talk to like Goodreads and like those kind of like um book tracking apps that also have really good recommendations, or just like simply just looking through a library or a bookstore for my next read. But I mean, like I'm truly, if you enjoy book talk, I'm in no way trying to like shame you or bash you. This is just truly just my opinion on it all, and if you enjoy book talk, like no one should stop you just because of someone's like negative opinion about it. um I think just like reading is such a good thing, and I'm glad that because of book talk more people are reading, and I hope that even more people start reading. So yeah. I guess this is the end of my podcast episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it didn't seem like I was just saying a bunch of like nonsense. I don't know. It's like my first time ever recording a podcast. So I was a little nervous, but this is exciting, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my little rant, I guess. And you guys should totally read my blog, Brewed Pages, on Tuesdays at 2. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Bye.